Hello, Doing It listeners. This is your main man. No, not Greg Gutfeld, Mike Sachs. As you may or may not know, I have two books that are being re-released, and they're out this week. One is Stinker Lets Loose, and that is the novelization to a non-existent CB and trucking movie from 1977 called Stinker Lets Loose. And the other re-release is a memoir that I found, supposedly, at a garage sale and republished, and that is written by a very unique individual from Maryland named Randy. Now, Randy and I have had a contentious relationship over the years, but deep down, he's a scumbag. Beyond that, he's also a lovable scamp, like most scumbags. Now, recently, Randy was a guest on a very funny podcast my producer, Rob Schulte, makes called Vanderpump Rules. Vanderpump Rules is a comedy podcast about reality TV, and no one knows reality TV better than Randy, although I'm not quite sure how Rob knew what he was getting into when he spoke with Randy. I have obtained permission from Rob to share this episode in this feed, and if you like it, please check out his podcast, Vanderpump Rules.
Welcome to Vanderpump Rules, a sexy, unique recap podcast hosted by me, Rob Schulte. Today's episode is a special one, but I'm going to warn you up top that it gets a little bit funky. This ain't your typical Vanderpump Rules episode. I kind of wanted to start the new year with a bang, and so this episode's a little bit risky. Earlier this year, a guy named Randy emailed me at vanderpumprops@gmail.com and asked if he could be on the show. He marketed himself as an entertainer, writer, musician, lizard wrangler, director, and, quote, overall ideas man. Apparently he has a memoir that's being published, and he's making the press tour to promote the book. He's also a huge fan of Vanderpump Rules. Now, I thought this was a little bit questionable because a lot of people asked to come on the podcast. So I asked Randy for an advance copy of his memoir. He sent me a bunch of MP3s, which is apparently what the print version is based on. So I listened to the MP3s, and I gotta tell you, I was intrigued. I did my research and saw that Randy used to be a frequent caller onto a relationship and advice podcast and radio show called YOY. Randy asked me to disguise his voice on the edit of this episode, said he thought it sounded like it made him more dangerous and that, quote, ladies love a dangerous man that looks 24 years old. Either way, this episode went in a bunch of different directions, but I didn't want to scrap it because I think my audience would enjoy the conversation. And definitely, you need to pick up this memoir, if only for the novelty of how bizarre it is. Now, Randy's memoir's official title is Randy, the full and complete unedited biography and memoir of the amazing life and times of Randy S. It's available wherever you get books, and apparently you can also find the audio version, like the MP3s I listened to, on most podcasting sites. But honestly, I would highly suggest picking up the print version because I can't imagine the audio will be up forever. Anyway, let's get into the interview. It's Randy. Randy, are we allowed to use your last name?
No.
No? Okay. We'll keep it with Randy. Randy, how are you?
I'm doing terrific. I've never been better. The last few years for me, it hasn't been good for a lot of people, but for me, it's been really exceptional.
That's interesting. So you didn't get sick and...
I got sick 6 times, and I reached the point where every time I would sneeze, I would pass out. But what I did was I used that to my advantage. I became a COVID-tainer. And what I would do was I would travel around the country and entertaining those who were sick with COVID. And I would go door to door, depending on where they were, and show up, usually surprise, and not really asked by anyone in particular. I would just go onto Facebook and other social sites to see who was posting photos of their positive test results and show up and then ask, if they could give me a donation afterwards. And usually they did.
We'll get to Vanderpump Rules in just a second because I'm surprised you're a fan. It doesn't seem like it's up your alley, just from what I know from your audio memoir.
I'm a huge
But
fan.
whoa! Oh, but so as a did that take you all over the country during lockdown?
It did. And what I did was I bought I'm still the homeowner association president. I'm also the executive officer, CEO, CFO. I named myself. So I collect a tithe for each of the members of the homeowners association, which is 150 a month. There's over 300 at this point. So I don't have to work. I don't have to be a COVID-tainer, but it was something that I've always wanted to do. And I looked at this as an opportunity to go out there and entertain people who usually aren't entertained. Now, in the past, what I've done is I've showed up at children's hospitals without permission and played them songs and clowned around and made balloon animals and such a thing. But it didn't work out that first time because usually what I did was I played Mississippi blues on the acoustic guitar, and that seemed to depress the children and their parents and the nurses and the doctors. And there wasn't really good money in that. So I wanted to make money and I wanted to entertain, and I decided to become a COVID-tainer.
Well, that makes a lot of sense for the little I know about you. It feels like maybe there's a little bit of risk involved. I'm glad you're healthy, but did you ever run into any dangerous scenarios? Was anything ever life-threatening?
Oh, sure, all the time. But beyond that, I adopted a 15-year-old from the streets of El Salvador. Now, I don't know what his original name was. I call him Theodore or Theo or just T. And he's a tough little guy, and he follows me around. He'll sit in the driver's seat, and if there is any problem, sometimes there is. For instance, if I'm entertaining someone with COVID and her husband comes home, then Theo or T will step in and put the guy in line, and we'll hit the road pretty quickly. So it's because of Theo, really, that I felt comfortable to leave my querencia, which in Spanish means the part of the bull ring which the bull is most comfortable in. Now, in my own life, that would be Poolsville. So it was because of him and other issues that I decided to hit the road and see what life was like out there.
Okay, well, I'm not going to ask any more questions on your entertainment, because I feel like I would hate for you to run into trouble with Johnny Law again. But when you hit the road, did you have a destination in mind? Because being from the East Coast, I can't imagine. I mean, I know you love Florida, but it doesn't feel like you went that direction. Did you head out west? Is that why all this happened?
I went wherever someone needed me. I have a souped up 1988 red Grand Am, and I've had this car forever. And I've just been itching to hit the road. Never drove across country before. I'm sort of a homebody, I guess. I like my house at the top of the hill, the townhome on the top of the hill. I like going to the sports bars that I go to. I like routine, but I really wanted to push myself, especially after the fourth time I caught COVID. I thought life is short, and I wanted to take a chance. So wherever someone needs me. Now, I'm old school. I don't use the Lyft or the Zuru or the Tubu or anything like that. I use old maps. They're called triptychs from AAA. So what I'll do is I'll map out a route. And these routes can be the following. It can be Maryland to Ohio, down to Missouri, over to Georgia, back up to Maryland, back up to Boston. It can be all over the place. So I've been traveling, putting a lot of miles on this car of mine, and just having the best time I've ever had in my life. It's only when you push yourself that you can really live.
That makes so much sense. And I can imagine the impetus of wanting to cross country if all of your sports bars are closed down.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they were closed down where I'm live full time in Maryland. The Midwest doesn't care about that. They were always open. So that's another true advantage of getting out of the Democratic-owned territory of the East Coast.
Well, that in terms of Vanderpump Rules, that's a show set in California. Did your entertaining career take you all the way out west?
No.
Well, then how did you discover Vanderpump Rules?
Well, first of all, I discovered it because a friend of mine, Chip, makes porno versions of television shows.
Really?
Yeah. So instead of Family Ties, you have Family Thighs. you have different strokes, which is just spelled the same. And what he did was he produced this porno that was shot in a local strip mall's Baskin Robbins, the back room you can rent out if you slip the manager some money, with some local talent. And he put out a movie called Vanderpump Rules.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was, I enjoyed it very much, but I had no idea what he was referencing. So it was because of that I then went in and started watching the show, and I fell in love immediately. I mean, these people were like everyone I've always wanted to be friends with. Lisa Vanderpump is not only successful, but she's hot as a MILF, or for anyone. She's funny as hell. She's fair. And I think she puts on one of the best shows on television.
That is incredible. I just, call it my own like regional bias, but I did not expect you to be a Vanderpump Rules fan. Honestly, I didn't expect you to be a reality TV fan, but I do love that you can connect with some of these characters. Have you binged everything, or do you watch one season on repeat? What's your viewing process with this show?
Oh my God, I'm obsessive. I've watched every show at least 4 or 5 times. I have a journal where it tracks down, almost like a high mathematical equation, each of the characters' relationship to the next. So you'll have like a Tom Sandoval linked to a Lala Kent, right? And then from her, you go to a Mike Shea, to a Jen Bush, to a Tim McDowell, to, I don't know, Max Todd, right? So it's very complicated. And I sent this to them. I sent this to a few of the people. I haven't heard back yet, but I have been in touch with Tom Sandoval, Brittany Cartwright. They haven't gotten back either, but I've been writing emails to them, and emails and faxes and actual letters that you put in the post office box. And
remember that?
Well, I prefer that, because I have a record. So if they come back to me and said, "Hey, you said this," or "You asked for money," which I have at times, I can then say, "No, I haven't," or "Yes, I have," because it's like having a receipt. So I usually take a Xerox of what I send out. But whether it's Brett Caprioni or Bo Clark or Charlie Burnett, all these guys I'm friendly with.
It's strange because like a lot of these people don't connect with viewers of the show. Maybe once or twice on social media, but being able to like become friends with some of these people through correspondence, whether or not they're responding, is one thing. But it's a total leap, and I guess we'd have to attribute it to your charismatic nature.
Yeah, and it also has to do with my post-COVID feeling. I mean, after I caught COVID for the 5th time, this was 2 weeks ago, I noticed some mental issues. And it occurs to you that, or occurred to me, I'm not as young as I used to be. I am not 37 years old anymore. I look 24, but I'm now in my 40s.
How do you do that? How do you keep yourself looking so young? Because especially these people on the show feel like they never age, but they get, lasering and all the special skin creams from the West Coast. Do you partake in that sort of world?
No, I think a lot of it is genetics, and a lot of it is just me sitting in my car in the 95-degree humid DC summers. It becomes like a Russian bathhouse, and it's very moist, and it really does wonders for the skin. But a lot of people have said to me, I have no wrinkles. Well, yeah, because I've been sitting in this Grand Am for the last 15 years.
That makes sense. First of all, I gotta say, I too obviously am a huge fan of the show. I don't have near a connection you do. I know Peter a little bit. He's the manager of Sir, the sexy unique restaurant.
I know who Peter is.
Oh, you know Peter as well, huh?
I know who he is. I've reached out. He hasn't gotten back yet.
That's interesting, because Peter has recently done a Clamato deal, and I figured that Clamato's right up your alley.
I am obsessed with Clamato. Now, I grew up not in the Northeast, but in the mid-coast area in Maryland, Virginia, and we grew up around crabs. But the first time someone gave me Clamato was during a bar bet, and this guy was trying to be funny and trying to make me look like a fool, and said I couldn't drink an entire glass full of Clamato at the same time. And he said, "I'll give you $50 if you do."
And did you get that 50?
No, I threw up. But it was the sort of taste that actually reminds me of like crabs gone bad, which is sort of something that it's like a good stink, like putting your head in the fridge and smelling bad cheese. I'm just a sucker for that sort of thing. It's so bad, it's good. So I know exactly what Clamato tastes like.
This podcast is made possible by listener support at patreon.com/VanderpumpRobs. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I wouldn't be able to keep this podcast alive without the support of listeners like you. At patreon.com/VanderpumpRobs, you not only get to help keep the lights on at the podcast, you can also gain access to ad-free episodes, extra content, as well as access to a community of listeners that help steer the Vanderpump Robs ship. In 2023, I've got some exciting plans, and you're going to want to be in the know. So help support the show and call yourself a tastemaker at patreon.com/VanderpumpRobs. Have you heard the news? There's a new podcast in town. Doing It with Mike Sachs is back with brand new episodes. This monthly series, produced by yours truly, follows the weird and wild mind of the comedy genius Mike Sachs, author of Stinker Lets Loose, Poking a Dead Frog, Passable in Pink, and so much more. So subscribe to Doing It with Mike Sachs on the Sonar Network or wherever you get your podcasts. You've taken me back, Randy. You make me realize that, like, you can have a connection to something, a sensory connection that, like, makes you feel good, even though it may not be the most appealing. And I wonder if that is also something that brings people back to this TV show. You know, they fight a lot, they argue. There's a lot of vain attempts at popularity, but that's just who we are as humans. And do you find that when you've traveled this big, wide country of ours that, I don't know, maybe everyone's more the same than they are different?
I don't know. But what I do, I want to tell you too, with Vanderpump Rules, is I've created fan fiction, and I'm a huge sucker for Middle Earth. You know, Middle Earth is Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And a guy named Junior Tolkien created this.
Excuse me, who created that?
Junior Tolkien. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of Vanderpump Rules. So what I do is I combine it. So you'll have Max Williams fighting dragons. You'll have Brittany Cartwright making love. I can't say it on the air, but making love to an orc.
Oh, wow.
You'll have Jeremy Davidson wrestling nude with a hobbit.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So all these, I've done about 25 so far. They're all sexually drenched, and they all have to do with these great characters who are out west and those great characters who are in the middle of the earth.
Sheena Shea. She's got to be a character in this. Sheena Shea. She started off as a performer on the show while also being a server at the restaurant. She would sing songs, but now she's kind of gone the way of motherhood and selling products on Instagram while also acting on the show. But I can only imagine in your fanfic, you're drawing from all of her background.
Well, I stopped watching her because she staged a show called Sex Tips for Straight Women from a Gay Man, and that is something I don't want to mess with. I did find her beautiful, and I did reach out to her numerous times, and she did send a cease and desist letter through a third party. So that is someone I admired at first, and my respect has sort of lessened over the years. I do know who you're talking about, but I really can't get into the specifics of what's happening there.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Now, there's a couple of, I get letters from the listeners of this podcast, and although they didn't know you were coming on the show, I do think they're going to appreciate some of your input on some characters that have been fired from the show for different reasons. And I just think they had such an impact, regardless of why they got fired, that, maybe Randy has a thought or two about them. Now, Kristen Doty recently wrote a book. It was called He's Making You Crazy.
It's an awful book. It's
really?
Terrible book. She can't write with a nickel.
Now, is that because of her opinion on dating life, do you think, or it's just the way the book is structured?
No, it's because she's a vegetarian. I think that's absurd.
Oh, really? So you aren't a vegetarian. What do you have any sort of strict diet yourself?
I eat a ton of fudge and crabs.
Fudge and crabs. That makes sense. But Clamato will make you vomit.
Clamato still makes me vomit. But if I am in a situation where I need to vomit, instead of Ipecac, it's Clamato.
Fair. Now, Kristen Doty used to essentially feel like she needed to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
Like if she had something done wrong to her, rather than address the issue she would seek someone else out and find what they had done wrong and bring it to light in front of the cameras on other people. Now, a lot of people on the show did this, but
She was evil. She put out a wine called, it was a rosé. It was called Basic Witch Potion #2.
oh,
You know what that should have been named?
wow, Randy, come on.
I mean, I call a spade, and she never really did appeal to me.
Well, I mean, I think you would fit in well on the subreddit of Vanderpump Rules. Moving more towards the male side of things, there was another cast member named Jax Taylor. Caused a lot of drama. It was almost as if he knew he was on this reality show and would just do these situations, cheat on his girlfriend, lie about his friends just for sheer entertainment value. Do you think that's I don't know, morally or ethically correct when you're on a show?
I love that guy.
Really?
That guy made me laugh like nuts. First of all, I knew him to begin with. He was on the cover of Trump magazine, and I collected all those magazines. I have those bound. But when I saw him on that show, it occurred to me he reminded me of someone. It was the model who appeared on Trump magazine.
Wow. That's interesting because a lot of the guys on this show did start as models. And it feels like, I guess he would model for anything, regardless of, as long as he gets the paycheck. And I guess that's kind of like you in a little bit of a way, right?
Yeah, well, we share a couple of things. I mean, he was in the Navy for 6 months and 4 days, if I remember correctly. He wanted to become a Navy SEAL, like I have. Not officially, but I have a backyard Navy SEAL training where I've gone through the entire process, including Hell Week, where I'm up for the entire week. Never once did ring the bell. So I'm not officially, like if I were to wear an outfit, say down in Norfolk, Virginia, of the Navy SEALs, probably get some looks. But I went through the training and I passed the training. Now this guy couldn't go through the training. He didn't have what it takes to get through. So he quit after 6 months and 4 days and then went into modeling, which is something I've also done when I was younger and thinking about getting back into.
Yeah, I was going to say you could probably get back into modeling with the way you've sustained such looks with your Grand Dam. I mean,
right. Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, if there's some local companies in Maryland, like Mattress Discounters, which I wrote a song for years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It went. The genius of it was like a Mad Lib. Each week you could fit in new lyrics. So it went, sleep on it, make love on it, eat on it, at the dun 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 Mattress Discounters. So that came. I was in advertising for 7 years. I was involved with Quiznos. I came up with the Quiz Yes campaign.
I remember that for sure.
Yeah, and quite a few. So that was before, but all this is something that once I do lose my looks, I can go back to. But at now, I'm just at my peak, I think, and just trying to take advantage.
Yeah.
Of getting out there, being physical, and just being someone who hopefully eventually can get a role in this show. And I've written many times, I am willing to work as a busboy in these restaurants. I am willing to do whatever it takes. I have reached out to the casting director many times. I don't know what it does take, but whatever it does, I'm willing to do it. I haven't been out there. I've never been out to California, but I will be out there at the drop of a hat if they want me to be out there.
Well, I don't see why they wouldn't take you. You've obviously got a connection to some of these people, while also a passion for, well, quite frankly, a passion for passion, but a passion for this show as well. Like, it seems like you know the ins and outs, and to be able to write fan fiction about this show is incredible.
Well, you really do need to know everything. I mean, most people wouldn't know, say, Christina Kelly, right? The former server at SIR. Not only do I know her, but I created an entire backstory for her.
Really?
So I don't know her or her background, but I know my background that I created for her, her likes and dislikes, her family history, her relationship with Middle Earth, why she might prefer. I don't have it in front of me. I mean, I'm assuming she's more into the orcs than she is the hobbits, which most of these shallow women are. Or take someone like Vale Bloom, right? She's another former hostess of SIR. She has an entire backstory in Middle Earth. There's a reason why she ended up there. There's a reason why she married one of the hobbits. There's a reason why they had a baby who was disfigured. There's a reason why they drowned that baby. There's a reason why they had another baby. So because of that, because of my knowledge, not only of the real existence, but the fictional existence that I created about each of these characters, you would think I would be on that show immediately, even if it is, and I'll say it again, a bus boy. And I worked as a bus boy as a kid. I know how to do it. I feel I'm not worthy maybe of being a bus boy in Hollywood, but for this show, I'd be willing to do it.
Well, that's understandable, because I think you've proven that you're able to work your way up to the top. After listening to your audio memoir, I was surprised at all of the different places you've been able to be successful.
Oh, hang on. Theodore is getting into some trouble. Don't touch that. He gives me a look like he's going to knife me or something. He's obsessed with popcorn, and he keeps going to the popcorn maker, but doesn't know how to make it. So he keeps pouring the kitty litter into it, and it becomes a huge mess.
Oh, no.
Put it down.
You think cheesy fingers are bad with popcorn?
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm a fan of the cheesy tubbed popcorns.
Oh no, I make my own popcorn.
Okay, so we're reaching the end of today's episode, Randy. But big news as of late is that Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval's new bar and restaurant is about to open in West Hollywood. It's called Schwartz and Sandy's.
I hate that name.
Really?
Yeah, it won't succeed.
Why do you think that is? Do you think there's just too many bars in West Hollywood, or?
It's just like enough already.
Well, what sort of bar do you think should open in West Hollywood?
Sports bar.
Any specific sports, or like?
I think, well, here's the thing too. There's so many sports bars that are devoted to football, baseball, and basketball. You have very few sports bars that are devoted to the Harry Potter sport.
Quidditch.
Yeah. And I think that's coming back. And I know that it's hugely popular. So it'd either be Quidditch or pickleball, one of the two.
That's fair. I mean, in one of the previous seasons, there was a pickleball tournament on this show. And I feel like pickleball is kind of getting that treatment Kale's been getting lately, where is really on the rise. People are excited about it.
You're talking about Kale McDowell, the character on season 5, was it?
No, I was just thinking about the vegetable, but
Jesus, I hate vegetables.
I know. You're a meat eater through and through.
The fudge and crabs.
Oh yeah, fudge and crabs. You're a fudge and crab eater through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Randy, before we wrap up today, I gotta ask. I know you love Vanderpump Rules, but are there other reality shows or game shows that you also love or would want to pitch to any potential listeners of this podcast? Some big industry people listen to this show.
Well, what I would want to do, and I've been pitching this for years, is a remake of Tic Tac Dough with Wink Martindale. This was a big show in the 70s and 80s. It's the best. It's actually the only game show that I can deal with. And I've recorded all of them, and I bought some on eBay, bootleg version. So I own all the episodes, just 1,250 or so. I would love to do a remake with me as the host.
Oh man, you'd make a really great game show host. You'd be almost like I don't know if you ever saw Rob Lowe in Mental Samurai, but I could see you in that position.
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh, he's an actor. Doesn't really matter. Not on Tic Tac Dough, which is honestly an incredible idea.
Yeah.
Randy, I know you've got the audio memoir out as well as a print version of your memoir that for some reason is getting re-released, but I'm thrilled. I'm buying another copy and a copy for all of my family. But is there anything else you'd like to let the people know about at this time?
Yeah, I have my own website. It's covidtainer-entertainer.net. And I have a live map of where I am at any given time and where I'm headed. And sometimes, as I said, these people don't even know I'm headed there. So if you want to get a leg up on where I'm headed to see if I'm headed your way, if you've posted any photos of positive results on Facebook, COVID results, go to covidtainer-entertainer-net. It's all there.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I can't wait to see what else is in store for Randy, last name redacted. Thanks so much. I didn't realize you were such a huge Vanderpump Rules head, but Always glad to bring on the super fans behind the paywall and in these bonus episodes. Thanks again for being on the show, Randy.
Can I talk to you about something?
Sure.
Do you have any sexual problems? I've created some pills. I've never had a problem, but I have created pills for myself that makes me go all night long. And I was wondering if you might be interested in buying some. What you would do is you would buy 100 or so boxes, and then it'd be up to you to sell those to your friends. And the more people you can get selling them,
Randy,
the more money you would make.
I think this sounds like a multi-level marketing scheme.
It's called Pump and Go.
I feel like I wouldn't want to get into that business, but I'm not here to downgrade your potential. But I am accepting ad spots. So if you get some funding for this and want to advertise on the podcast, I would be happy to.
I could go back to my early days of writing jingles.
Yeah, I would be
Pump
happy.
And go. Pump and go.
I imagine a tiger growling at the end. If you're taking ideas.
I'm not, but that's a good idea.
Okay, well, don't use it then. Well, thanks again, Randy. We'll talk more next time you're on the show. Really appreciate you joining me here on Vanderpump Rules.
Hey, Timmy, how do you shut this thing off?
Well, there you have it. I didn't lie. What a wild and questionable interview. I'll be back soon with new episodes, as well as episodes covering Season 10 of Vanderpump Rules. But until then, make sure you support this podcast at patreon.com/VanderpumpRobs, where you get ad-free and bonus episodes. And please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, see you next time, and thanks for listening to this wild episode.
Wait, Rob? Is that who we're talking about?
Yeah.